5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey guys, I'm Chase, otherwise known as CK Cards. How are y'all doing today? Today is episode 1 of my the first episode of my new podcast, CKTF for short. CK talks football, Chase Keller talks football. You know the deal. Today I'm joined by Andrew. If you're an OG, you know him well. He knows a lot about football, and so do I. So I decided this would be great if I could get him on here as well. He will be here for the most part, but he won't be here for every single episode. Anyways, since this is the pilot episode, I might as well talk about what this podcast will be. Basically, every episode there's going to be probably one or two main topics to talk about, and today is going to be our conference predictions. And we're also going to have a bonus topic, which today's bonus topic is my 2021 NFL draft top quarterbacks, and I'm going to say mine, he's going to answer, and we're going to go from there. After those topics, we're going to likely have a questionnaire. We had 2 questions that came in, so I'm ready. Are you ready, Andrew?
I'm ready.
All right, let's get this thing started. Conference predictions. We're starting off with the Chiefs versus the Bills, the second game of the doubleheader tomorrow. And to me personally, this is a game starring 2 of the most, if not the most, lethal offenses in the whole NFL. You have 2 MVP candidates at quarterback. You have outstanding weapons on both sides. You have great minds in the coaching staff. Head coaches Andy Reid and Sean McDermott, and then the OCs in Eric Bieniemy and Brian Dabble. Andrew, what are your thoughts on these 2 seemingly inexorable offenses, and how do they stand against the rest of the NFL?
Well, you said it. I mean, they're easily 2 of the best offenses in the NFL, probably 2 of the top 5 offenses. And when you look at this matchup here, it's really going to come down to which defense can stop the other team's passing game. Josh Allen has been incredible this season. I mean, he has kind of gone cold in the last few games in the playoffs, but I think when you're facing a defense like the Chiefs that has shown some signs of being not really the best defense in the NFL, I think that Josh Allen can have another great game. And that goes the same with Patrick Mahomes, obviously. He's been phenomenal in his playoff career, easily one of the best young talents in the NFL. It's got to be the offenses for how exciting this game is going to be.
And I honestly can back you up on that. I think 2 of the top 5 might even be like too little, like maybe 2 of the top 3 even, and as I said, maybe even the 2 best. So when you were talking about the defenses, which we'll get to later, I personally believe that when you're saying Josh Allen was getting cold, he played 2 great defenses, 2 elite defenses from the 2020 regular season. You have the Colts defense, which at the beginning of the season showed signs of being the best defense in the league, kind of cooled down. They're still a really good and elite defense in 2020, along with the Ravens also being a great defense overall.
Sure, yeah.
But and we're going to extend a bit on this Bills offense versus the Kansas City defense. So just straight up, how do you think the Bills are going to fare against Kansas City's defense?
Well, Kansas City's defense has been surprisingly good this year. I mean, they've held a lot of opponents under 20 points, but they've also shown signs of just getting absolutely blown out of the water. I mean, we've seen it in games like the Raiders and the Chargers where their defense cannot make a stop. I think it's all going to come down to how the Bills' running game is going to start off. The Bills have not had a good running game this season. It's been solely relying on Josh Allen's arm, and that's worked so far this year. But if the Kansas City Chiefs are able to stop Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley, you're going to be forcing Josh Allen to make mistakes that he hasn't made too much this season. And I think if the Kansas City Chiefs can make a couple mistakes out of Josh Allen, make him throw an interception or 2, I mean, when you have an offense like the Chiefs do, if Josh Allen just makes a couple interceptions, that might be game over for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I agree with you on the fact that it does depend on how the running game starts, because I remember you talking to me about how the Bills are going to pass a lot, and
For,
if the Chiefs go up early, the Bills are going to be definitely passing a lot, which
oh yeah,
I personally think when it comes down to Kansas City's run defense, the Bills should include some runs here and there as the drive as like the first and second drive goes on. Like, don't give up on the run immediately. Like, we know that Singletary is not that good and Moss is out and TJ Yeldon is your backup running back. So when it comes to that, I just feel the Bills should incorporate some runs, and if it doesn't work, just go full out passing.
for sure. Yeah, I think if the Kansas City Chiefs can stop the Bills' run early, the Bills are going to have to pass the entire game. And although Josh Allen definitely is capable of it, you might make a rookie mistake here too, or here or there. I think
That
that Kansas City.
yeah. Anyways, you were talking about Diggs.
Yep,
We're gonna start off with Josh Allen here. He had a major improvement from his sophomore campaign, which I know you personally, you were in doubt about his junior season. You were not sold on Josh Allen, but
I was.
I wasn't. If I'm being honest, I wasn't that sold either. But I did see the potential in an MVP run. Um, he had five. He just posted just under 5,000 total yards, 45 total touchdowns, and 16 turnovers. 10 interceptions, 6 fumbles. I'm pretty sure. Um, and many believe the addition of Diggs was what got him to this level of play, which I think that is partially true. But I want to ask you if the critics are right when they say Diggs is the full reason for Josh Allen's success, or do you think this was just a result of a third year rise or a third year rise that we've seen in the past with not Mahomes, Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray and all them? Like, is it
Yep.
was that? Do you think Diggs is one of the biggest, like the biggest reason on why he's been this successful, or is this just a third year rise?
No, I mean the critics are definitely they have a point, but there's no way that it's only Stephon Diggs. I mean, we have not seen a jump that Josh Allen made in 2 seasons in probably any quarterback ever. I mean, when you look at his completion percentage, all of that, Josh Allen just absolutely took his game to another level. A good receiver like Stephon Diggs can definitely help with that, but if they think that Stephon Diggs is the sole reason that Josh Allen made that leap, they are just wrong. I mean, Josh Allen has been
Oh yeah,
incredible this season. He's been reading defenses amazing. I mean, Josh Allen's made an incredible leap, and Stephon Diggs obviously helps for sure.
oh
One of the
yeah.
top receivers in the NFL. But
I said that as well. I believe that Allen wouldn't be an MVP candidate if it were for Diggs, but he definitely still would have been one of the greater quarterbacks this season. Like, if you're asking me, when it comes to quarterbacks, you have three MVP candidates. You have Rodgers, Allen, and Mahomes,
yeah,
and it's like I don't think Allen would have been in that top three if it weren't for Diggs, but Allen, the third year rise has been shown everywhere. Like, you always have quarterbacks not playing good their rookie year, and then once they get a year of experience in the NFL, they play very well. So, um, I know you're ready for this question. This is the last question we have for the Bills.
hmm
We're gonna take it back to the Bills Cardinals game here. Um, we got I know you're a biased Cardinals fan. You can see the Kyler Murray jersey sitting there in the back. Um, the Bills' only setback was in the last 11 games was that Cardinals game. So and that was the Hail Mary win. That's the only reason the Cardinals won that game is because that Hail Mary just saved it. So I want your opinion. Was that Hail Mary truly lucky, or was the secondary just outplayed?
no, there. I mean, there's obviously a little luck, but let's be real here. There's probably 3 quarterbacks in the NFL that are making the play that Kyler Murray made on that play. I mean, he's rolling to his left, going towards the sideline, had to completely flip his hips and make a 50-yard throw downfield. I mean, there's probably maybe Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes are probably the only 2 other quarterbacks I think that could have made that play that Kyler Murray did. And then you look at, of course, what DeAndre Hopkins did with that catch, like what Kyler Murray did with the throw. I mean, there's just not many receivers in the NFL that are making the catch over 3 defenders like DeAndre Hopkins did. I
Yeah.
mean, it was definitely a little bit of luck, but let's be real here.
Yeah,
That was
D Hop is
incredible.
one of the better jump ball receivers in the NFL, and obviously it truly showed there. But that was basically just as a joke question because I just wanted to add that on. But we're gonna move
Yeah,
on to the Chiefs side of things here. They're the projected winners with Mahomes at quarterback. And speaking of Mahomes, he is playing. So um, I understand why they're the favorites, even though I believe the Bills are going to win, which I'll get to later. But I understand why they're the favorites. But we're gonna we're gonna start off with the receiving threats here. We once again see a great offense showcasing one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and but at the same time, Mahomes has so much threats, and the Chiefs have played it perfectly because a they gave a very young quarterback amazing threats to make him a lethal quarterback. And obviously, I'm not saying that Mahomes is good because of his weapons. I'm saying he's developed so much because of those weapons. Like I doubt he would be this good if he didn't have those weapons. So we have Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelsey, who were the leading duo in receiving yards this year, 2,692 receiving yards.
it's
Um,
crazy.
and then you also have 26 receiving touchdowns out of the two as well. That's not all they have, though. They have great depth at the receiver position. You have McCole Hardman, Demarcus Robinson, Sammy Watkins. They combined for 1,447 receiving yards and 9 receiving touchdowns. Um, that Bills secondary, though, we've obviously showed the Bills defense have definitely underperformed this season, but that secondary has still been great. Um, allowed the 16th best completion percentage, 13th least passing yards, ninth least passing touchdowns, and had the 7th most interceptions this year. So it's been there for sure. But overall, when it comes to the Chiefs, which receiving threat do you think prevails over this Bill secondary?
It's got to be Travis Kelsey. I mean, when we're talking about a guy that's been unstoppable this season, Travis Kelsey. I mean, he's just been on another level for a tight end. I don't know if any team has held him under probably 50 yards this season. Tyreek Hill is an incredible receiver and definitely their most valuable receiver when you consider all that he can do in the deep passing game. But he can be shut down, especially by a team with the Buffalo Bills, where they have two great safeties in Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, and of course a good cornerback in Tre'Davious White. So I think it's really going to come down to how do the Bills play Travis Kelsey. Travis Kelsey is an incredible tight end, and they have some good line in Buffalo with Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmonds. But if they're going to choose to cover him with linebackers all game, Travis Kelsey is going to win that matchup because he's just too good of a receiving threat to be covered by linebackers. And I think that Travis Kelsey's got to have a great game right here for the Kansas City Chiefs.
That is exactly what I said. Travis Kelsey is, to me, he's going to have an amazing game here. Now, I don't even know if you know this, but the Bills have been arguably a one of the three worst tight end covering teams this year.
Wow.
They've allowed the most receptions, second most receiving yards. Um, they've only allowed 8 touchdowns, which is kind of average, but we can't forget how Kelsey had the second most receiving yards out of anyone in the NFL. And you're going up against the team who allowed the most receiving yards to tight ends. So, along with the fact that Kelsey had 13 and a half yards of reception this year. So, I
That's just
think the Bills are just going to struggle. Bills are going to struggle against Kelsey for sure. Onto the offensive line, though. The offensive line has prevailed this year. Um, they did lose their best offensive lineman in Mitchell Schwartz. Um, week 6. I actually think they lost Schwartz when they played the Bills during the regular season. Um, his replacement, Mike Remmers, though, he's been very good. He's been having a career year. He's been playing like a starter. Um, there's some stat that I saw that I can't remember, but anyways, that offensive line was really good this year, and against an average pass rush and a rusty run defense, how does that offensive line fare?
I mean, yeah, you said it. The Chiefs' offensive line's been great this season, but we can't really sleep on the Bills' defensive line. They haven't had an amazing season overall, but in these past few games, they've definitely stepped it up. We're seeing guys like Jerry Hughes for the Buffalo Bills play good in the playoffs. And although the Chiefs definitely have, I think, the advantage in this situation with the better offensive line compared to the Bills' defensive line, I think that the Bills, if they can do what they did against the Baltimore Ravens and Indianapolis Colts, I think they could definitely kind of neutralize that strength that the Chiefs have in that matchup.
Yeah, for sure. Um, I mean, overall, the Chiefs' offensive line has played good in pass block and run block. Like they aren't specifically good pass blockers and they aren't specifically good run blockers. They've been playing both. They've been playing good at both aspects, which is why they're one of the better offensive lines. So, on to a defensive aspect here. We're going to talk about the Chiefs' run defense now. The Browns last week, 5.3 yards a carry against the Chiefs. I know they do have one of the best rushing offenses in the league. Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, obviously probably the best rushing duo in the NFL. Um,
Mm.
but we also know the Bills, as we said earlier, the Bills' rushing offense has been underperforming this season for sure. Um, Devin Singletary went from a near league leading 5.1 yards a carry to 4.4. They also had Zach Moss, but now Zach Moss is out for the playoffs. Overall, when it comes to yards, they had the 20th best rushing offense in the NFL. So, how did the Chiefs defend Singletary this week?
I mean, yeah, the Chiefs' defense or run defense specifically has not been good this season. But when you're talking about the Bills, they're a one-dimensional team. They've passed the ball all season. I think if the Chiefs can't stop the Bills' running game in this game, I mean I think that's just a huge disadvantage for the Chiefs. I think if the Chiefs can't stop the Bills' running game, the Bills are going to win this football game.
Oh
If the
yeah.
Bills can get going, we're talking about a great game from Josh Allen, who can play great off of the play action. He's definitely one of the best quarterbacks at doing that. So I think the Chiefs should win this matchup with how bad the Bills' running game has been. But if Devin Singletary can have kind of a breakout game here, if the Bills can do some quarterback runs with Josh Allen, maybe I don't know how that's going to work, but I think the Chiefs definitely have the advantage despite their poor run defense. And overall, I think they should win this game if they can stop the Bills' run game, which they should be able to.
Oh yeah. Um, the Chiefs' run D has been very disappointing, but
For
you're
sure.
also talking about a disappointing rushing offense, so that might just be canceled out in this game. Like you got
Yeah.
a bad rushing offense and a bad rushing defense. So who knows? But overall, um, what are your final thoughts on this game? Who do you think is going to win, and why do you think they're going to win?
My money's got to go on the Kansas City Chiefs. I know it might be the boring pick here, but I mean, has Patrick Mahomes really let us down so far? Not really. I think the Bills, their defense, it's been okay at best. I think if we're talking, this game should be a shootout, and I think in a shootout with the game on the line, I think I would take the quarterback Mahomes over Josh Allen, even though both have been spectacular this season. So I think the Chiefs are probably going to win this game, maybe 30-24.
Okay, I like that score prediction because I feel like this is also going to be an offensive game mainly. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm gonna have to disagree. I think the Bills are gonna win here. Personally, to me, right now, the Bills have the best offense in the league. Like right
Well,
now, currently, I don't think they had the best offense the whole season, but currently, I think they have the best offense. It's just Allen's been outstanding in as a dual threat quarterback. Um, it's just Diggs has honestly grown to be, in my opinion, the second best wide receiver this season. If you asked me this a few weeks ago, I would maybe even doubt he was I would maybe say top five, but now to me he's top two. So he's been evolving. Dawson Knox has been getting involved in this offense a lot more as well, more than we saw at the beginning of the year. And it's that defense has the aspects that they're good at can shut down Kansas City. Not shut down, actually. I should just say like they should be able to stabilize Kansas City. Now, if I had to go with the score prediction, I would probably say, depending on how we see the Chiefs defense come out this game, the Bills can drop north of 30 something points. And I believe I'm gonna just go 34-27 is my final score. Bills take the win there. Another high scoring, but that's where I believe. But anyways, that was Chiefs Bills. let's move on to the other conference game, the Buccaneers versus the Packers. Now, we're gonna start off with the Packers here. Um, there's two things that are not on Rodgers' side right now, to me: conference games and the fact he's gonna win MVP. So, first off, conference games. He's 1-3 in his career in conference games. His only win was a Super Bowl, and he ended up winning the Super Bowl over Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
The rest, I think he lost first the 49ers, or no, yeah, he lost to the 49ers. He lost to the Seahawks, and I can't think of that third team right now. But
I'm trying to
it's
think of.
he's not the best in conference games. You also have to talk about the MVP curse as well. Um, what was it? It was the last time an NFL MVP won the Super Bowl was that was what was it? I think it was 1999. Kurt Warner.
Yep, Kurt Warner with the Rams.
1999. That year. The last two NFL MVPs have not made it past the conference games or have not made it into the Super Bowl. Um, that would be Mahomes and Jackson. Um, the last time two MVPs did not make the Super Bowl in a row, that was um, there was actually three. There was a three streak in that. There was Tom Brady in 2010. He didn't make it to the Super Bowl that year. Aaron Rodgers in 2011 didn't make it to the Super Bowl that year, and Adrian Peterson in 2012. I don't even think he made the playoffs.
Hmm.
So the MVP curse is just the MVP curse, but we also have to talk about Brady as well. Last year, we saw how his season ended or his career with the Patriots ended last year against the Titans. Last year was just a glimpse of how Brady can play in the playoffs in these clutch games at age 42 plus. He's now 43, but last year he was 42. So tell me, um, do you think Rodgers' conference game luck continues, or is Brady just not enough for the Packers?
Well, based on the signs we saw earlier this year when they faced each other and the Buccaneers just absolutely blew out the Packers, I think that we can definitely see Rodgers' unluck or like lack of luck in the conference championship games continue. I know last year when they faced the 49ers, their run defense just could not stop the 49ers. When you were talking about that conference game against the Seahawks, they blew a lead late there. He really hasn't been lucky in the conference championship, and that won't necessarily continue in this game against the Buccaneers, but it definitely could.
I believe that as well. Honestly, it's tough for me to predict who's going to win this game because I just overall believe the Packers are the better team, but the Buccaneers destroyed the Packers earlier this year, and Rodgers doesn't have good conference game luck. So there's so much stuff on the Packers side, and there's so much good stuff on the Packers side, so much bad stuff on the Packers side. So it's it's gonna be good. I believe this is gonna be the better game of the two to me, not because this is there's just so much questions that can be answered about this game. I didn't put a lot of questions, but there's so much that can be questioned. There's so much that can be questioned. But anyways, Packers rushing offense, very good rushing offense. Last week against the Rams, who have a really good rushing offense, they averaged 5.6 yards a carry on 34 carries. That's
Wow.
really dang good. And that was their running backs. Rodgers had like one carry for or two carries for -1 yards or one carry for -2 yards, something like that. But their running back room had 5.6 yards a carry. Um,
Hmm.
but at the same time, that Buccaneers rushing defense was arguably the best in the league last year. The
Yeah.
least amount of rushing attempts, least amount of rushing yards, least yards per carry, and least amount of touchdowns. All four of those stats they had the least in. To make them more sophisticated, they also had the least amount of rushing, or they allowed the least amount of rushing first downs. So,
Wow.
do we see Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, and A.J. Dillon repeat the same success?
Well, I mean, this is the matchup of the game right here. It may not seem like it just because it's running the football, but especially in the playoffs. Running the football is extremely important. You got the number one run defense in the NFL against an extremely hot rushing offense. I think that the Buccaneers, I think they are able to neutralize the Packers early, but there's no way you can contain this running back room all game long, especially with how Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon have been playing for the Packers. So I think overall this matchup will probably go to the Packers in the long run, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Buccaneers are able to stop this run game with how great of an interior run defense they have with Ndamukong Suh, Vita Vea, and of course those edge rushers and linebackers.
Yeah, of course. Aaron Jones is a great running back. We can all admit that. AJ Dillon
Mm-hmm.
has a ton of potential. We can all admit that. Jamal Williams is another good piece in that running back room. We can all admit that. But honestly, I could see the Buccaneers shutting down the Packers in the run game, but at the same time, I can also see the Packers prevailing in the run game. So that's where we're at with that. Now we have Jair Alexander on defense. The um, key piece of that defense, as you can say. Um,
Yeah,
he last week he shadowed the receivers. He shadowed. He had 3 targets, allowed 1 catch for -3 yards. That is great. Comparing to Ramsey, who allowed 6 catches on 6 targets for 55 yards, I think it was, and a touchdown. So last week he had a terrorizing performance. But does this terrorization continue when you match him up against two great receivers?
I mean, if we're talking about how great Jair Alexander has been these past few games, I don't know if any of these receivers have a chance against him. Mike Evans has gotten shut down multiple times this season, especially
Specifically
by
against
Mark.
Marshawn Lattimore. Yeah, you were about to
Yep.
say that.
Yep. I mean, if it's Evans versus Alexander, I'm taking Alexander every time. Chris Godwin has not been himself this season, and Antonio Brown just got ruled out. So I'm taking Jair Alexander probably against all these Tampa Bay receivers, despite how good they've been this season.
Yeah, I feel that when Jair Alexander's covering, he's gonna definitely be a huge. He's gonna be the X factor. There, right there. He's gonna be the like. Yeah, you know what X factor means. I don't have to explain
Yeah.
that. But um, it's just when. But what about the other receiver? You have Kevin King guarding the other receiver, and he's hasn't been playing good this year. So it's just whoever Jair Alexander's gonna cover is gonna get shut. But whoever he's not covering, which is again another good receiver, is just gonna he's gonna prevail. So
It's a fair
um,
point.
finally we couldn't forget about Devonte Adams. We could not forget about him. Um,
Nah.
when it comes to him, he last week he had um, or actually I should say last time the Buccaneers and the Packers matched up, Devonte had 6 receptions for 61 yards, which for him is a bad game. So so that Buccaneers secondary has been highly underrated and highly and actually pretty good this year. They're just all around good. So when it comes to Devonte Adams, how does he fare against this Buccaneers secondary?
Yeah, I mean, the Buccaneers secondary has had a breakout season. Carlton Davis, they have over there Jamel Dean. But, I mean, when you're talking about the best receiver in the NFL, obviously you got to take him over that secondary. I like the Buccaneers secondary, what they have over there, but Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams are on another level of just play against everybody else in this season. I think Devontae Adams probably has another pretty big game. He won't go absolutely off, but he'll probably have at least maybe 6 to 8 catches and hopefully around 100 yards for the Packers.
That seems like a fair prediction. I think he's going to do a lot better than he did against the Buccaneers last time because I'm pretty sure the Buccaneers was the game he returned from his injury. If not, it was his second game. But I could see somewhere along the lines of floor is like 5 and ceiling is like 10 receptions. And
Yeah,
we could see Devonte Adams do really well. We could see Devonte Adams do not do bad, but do bad for considering who you're talking about. So that's Devonte Adams. We're gonna talk about the Buccaneers now. Tom Brady in the playoffs. First got to get to that. Last year, not a good showing. This year, he's not, again, not the best. He hasn't thrown any interceptions, but he's got like a 55% completion percentage in the playoffs so far this year. But again, we all know how his past has been. He's been one of the best playoff quarterbacks to ever exist. Maybe the best playoff quarterback ever. But you have so far, it's 40 for 73, 580 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks so far for him in the playoffs this year. We've seen his bad playoff games. We saw him against the Titans last year. He played pretty dang bad. So does his playoff luck still there? Is he still one of the better playoff quarterbacks?
Well, yeah, he's Tom Brady. I mean, yeah, the Packers have a decent defense, but if we're really looking at the matchup here, I mean, Tom Brady, he's got to win this matchup for sure. He hasn't had any turnovers or at least interceptions in the playoffs so far this season. I think that's definitely going to continue. He probably won't pass for a whole bunch of yards against the Packers defense, but he's Tom Brady. He's done it before, and you can't really doubt him to do it again. That's all I got to
I
say.
like that answer. He's just Tom Brady. He's just Tom
Tom Brady.
Brady. All right, let's get back into it. A bit of a something really weird just happened, so we have to start another clip and go from there. So now we were talking about the run game. We're talking about the rushing offense, and we're talking about, personally to me, a very underrated rushing offense. Ronald Jones has been the feature back this year, and he's definitely excelled. His best season to date. Um, and at the same time, Fournette has been playing like a starter as the backup. So, um, he for sure fills that running back two role, and he might be the perfect running back two for a team because if your starter goes down, you have the backup right there to help. So, now we all know the Packers' rush defense isn't the best. They allowed 4.5 yards a carry in the regular season. So, is Ronald Jones, or if Leonard Fournette is starting, are they the X factor for the Bucks this week?
I wouldn't say they're the X factor for this game, but if you look at the recent NFC Championships last year with the Packers just getting absolutely torched by Raheem Mostert on the ground, I think if Leonard Fournette or Ronald Jones could have anywhere near what Mostert did last year, I mean, we're talking about a possible blowout here for the Buccaneers. But when you look at the Buccaneers, they're a passing team as well, kind of like the Bills. They can run the ball, obviously, with Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette. They just mostly just choose not to with how Bruce Arians has run that offense. So I wouldn't say they're the X factor. I still think the X factor of the Bucks offense is if they could possibly get anything going against Jair Alexander. But yeah, that's definitely an important part of this game.
Yeah, it's as you said. The Bruce Arians isn't the smartest when it comes to running backs. He does not like to utilize his running backs, and it shows throughout his past as a head coach. But Ronald Jones has been one of the best running backs in the league this year. Leonard Fournette has been one of the best backups in the league this year, and it's just that run game is stellar. So we'll see how what Bruce Arians does against a not so good Packers run defense. But now we have to get to the defense category. We all know Tampa's defense, one of the best in the league. It's stellar pass rush to its exceptional run defense and its underrated secondary. So we saw how they handled the Packers in Week 6. So what are the chances that Tampa shuts down Rodgers and the Packers?
The chances are probably about maybe zero. It's Aaron Rodgers. I don't think they definitely down. I know they did it earlier on in the season, but there's no way you shot down Aaron Rodgers 2 times in a season. They got a phenomenal defense. I think their pass rush will get something going, but the Packers also have one of the best offensive lines in the league. So even then, like, do you really have the advantage with that great pass rush? I don't know.
I gotta kind of disagree with you. I agree that I don't think they're gonna shut him down, but I think there is a decent chance that Rodgers gets shuts down yet again. I don't even know if it'll be the whole. I don't even know if it'll be just Rodgers. It might that whole team might get shut down. And what I'm saying by that is that the first off, I think the first step for the Buccaneers is to stop that rushing offense at the beginning of the game, trying to prove that that rushing offense may not be the key to winning. Get Rodgers to throw more, you're getting Rodgers. You're getting Rodgers to throw more. You can now avoid the rushing offense, focus on Rodgers, and I think it just depends on strategy, like where you go from the beginning of the game and where you are at the end of the game. So that's what I think. There is a good chance, but I don't think it'll happen. But anyways, we got to say it again. Who wins this game, and why do you think they win this game?
The Green Bay Packers win this game. I think a curse that we didn't talk about earlier. We were talking about Aaron Rodgers in the NFC Championship. Something we didn't talk about earlier was the Super Bowl curse, where a team has never played a game in the stadium that played a Super Bowl game.
Yes, yes, that thing.
Yeah,
In
in their home.
yeah.
That the Super Bowl's in Tampa. I think there's a chance the Bucks win out this game, obviously, but Aaron Rodgers, he should be on another level this season. He's a man on a mission. He's going to win this game. I think I'm going to say 31 to let's go 27. It's going to be a really good game.
Dang,
I'm
that,
taking.
that yeah. I think this game's going to be the better of the two. Both games are going to be great though overall. Again, but I've had very bad luck with my predictions this year. In the wild
Yeah.
card round, I predicted the Seahawks to win the Super Bowl. They got eliminated. In the divisional round, I predicted the Saints to win the Super Bowl. They got eliminated. Hopefully, this doesn't continue. I also say the Packers win this game. But I don't think it's going to be that much of an offensive shootout. I think it's going to be more depending on if Brady can get something done against this Packers defense and if Rodgers can get stuff done against this Buccaneers defense. But I do believe they win. I think I'm going to probably go with the final score like 24 to 20, somewhere around that area. Again, a very close. I think this is going to be a very close game. I think both games are going to be very close. So that's where I'm
All
at.
right.
And yeah, those were the conference games right there. So now, that was our main topic. We're going to talk about the bonus topic now. 2021 draft quarterback rankings. Now, I know you didn't want to make yours detailed, but you do have your rankings. I have mine very detailed. I'm going to talk about mine, and you're gonna agree slash disagree and tell me why. But
Yep.
before I reveal my list, I just want to put this out to the audience. This is a top five when it relates to NFL success. This is not a top five quarterbacks from college. If it was top five quarterbacks in college, it would have been something like Fields, Lawrence, Jones, blah blah blah. But this is when I think it's going to This is my list when it translates to NFL success, which is why Mac Jones is not on my list. We've seen so much Alabama products be very unsuccessful in the NFL. So I think Mac Jones is just going to be another one of those. But
Could
let's
happen.
get into this. I'm going to start with my number one. Pretty obvious, the Trevor Lawrence. I feel like Clemson is one of those colleges that isn't a product college. Like you have Ohio State, which produces really good quarterbacks that don't translate. Alabama also as well. Clemson's been very very successful without having quarterbacks just be successful in college. Like I mean, a current example, Deshaun Watson. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He went to Clemson. The best Ohio State quarterback we've ever seen. I actually have this somewhere. Might be something like Art Schlichter.
Who?
He was a first round pick. He's one of only two Ohio State first round picks ever as
Twenty.
at quarterback. So we've just seen so much products. But Clemson doesn't make those products, and I'm actually gonna talk about Trevor Lawrence here. He has outstanding upside. His progression throughout the years has just been undoubtedly great, and I feel like his progression will continue into the NFL. He's also very mentally ready. His ability to read defenses and read blitzes from anywhere is just outstanding. Like that will easily translate to the NFL. He rarely gets sacked. Like I think he took 7 sacks last year,
Wow.
which is and the Clemson O line. Think of this: the Clemson O line is not that good.
Yeah. I mean,
So
that's
they like if you talk if in an example is Ohio State's offensive line. That may be the best offensive line from the previous season. And Justin Fields took 8 sacks. So yeah, and Justin Fields took 8 sacks in less dropbacks. I'm pretty sure. So that's just great. We're also talking about a great physique. Lawrence is 6'6", 220 pounds as well. His ability to use his size to avoid pass rushers, get out of the pocket, and scramble if needed also will translate to the NFL. Um, his accuracy is also top notch. He's accurate anywhere. He can sling the ball deep while also being able to find tight gaps. And the only real issue with his accuracy is that his throwing style may translate to overthrows in the NFL, which we see quarterbacks overthrow a lot, but that is easily fixable. Um, and the one thing I had to put a negative about each quarterback, negative for Trevor Lawrence is he has inconsistencies. When he's rushed, he is inconsistent when he needs to throw the ball if scrambling's unavailable. So if the pocket collapses and he can't scramble, he's very inconsistent when it comes to making his decisions as he's throwing in the pocket. Um, that turns into forced throws, which translates to turnovers in the NFL. But again, that's something that's easily fixable.
mhm.
Um, that's Trevor Lawrence, my number two, which he's went from number 4 to number 2 in the last month. Zach Wilson. Um,
Yep.
Wilson has top-notch throwing ability. Um, he's able to squeeze balls between defenders, and he's also able to make off-balance and uncomfortable throws and complete them very easily. Um, Plenty of the throws he's made in college can translate to the NFL. The quarterback build of today is basically Zach Wilson. Um, he's also got that Mahomes comparison. In college, Mahomes and Wilson are basically almost the same player. Wilson can chuck the ball 60 plus yards downfield accurately. It's insane how far he can throw the football. Um, and also on this channel, YouTube channel, shout out to GDN Gashler's Draft Network. I'm sorry if I said that wrong, but they got me sold on Wilson. They made a video covering it about him being compared to Mahomes, called him a poor man's Mahomes. And as soon as I saw that video, Zach Wilson is almost my number one quarterback, if I'm being completely honest with you. He is so close to
Yep.
passing Trevor Lawrence for number one. And I believe that's why the quarterback is so that's why this quarterback class is so nice because you have decent depth at QB and you have two top-notch quarterbacks. And I believe if the Jets play their cards right, they should be getting Wilson at number 2. Um, he has NFL mobility. He's able to make plays out of the pocket. He's able to scramble if he needs to. He's also able to make in-pocket passes as well. And make like okay. Sorry, I stutter a lot, but he's able to make in-pocket throws that you can make in the NFL. Um, Again, the negative. Sometimes he's forcing throws, just like Lawrence. He forces throws, turns into turnovers in the NFL, and again, that's fixable. Um, But yeah, on to number 3. It's a tough one. It's tough at number 3 for me. I had to go with Trey Lance though. In
Oh,
another very close battle with Fields at 4, which we'll get to later. But Trey Lance, small sample size. He's played one full season and one singular game, and that's it. Um, but in that one game in 2020, he completed 50% of his passes and threw an interception and lost a fumble. But he also
yeah.
had 4 total touchdowns. So I just think he's going to drop down draft boards. But I personally think he's good. He's really good. Talking about a dual threat quarterback, Trey Lance is just that. In 2019, he scored 42 total touchdowns, 28 in the air and 14 on the ground. He did this while only turning the ball over one time, which
Wow.
was one lost fumble. He didn't throw a pick, just lost one fumble. He also averaged 14.5 yards of completion and 9.71 yards an attempt. That is great. We also have to talk about his physique. He's 6'4", 226 pounds, and in the way he runs the football at that size is amazing to me. He has lots of momentum. He's very explosive, and he's got a lot of physicality on the ground as well. He throws the football very well. Um, he's able to sling the ball downfield, not as downfield as Zach Wilson is able to, but he's able to get the ball downfield. He's able to hit tight windows anywhere on the field. He's able to throw defenders off with different angles as well, which is great, and that is great for the NFL. Then you have the negatives in his throwing game. Sometimes he rushes throws, and he can be very predictable at some points, which are two things that you can fix. But if you're not able to fix them, you're not going to be a good quarterback. Um, if secondaries are easily able to read you, that you're not going to be good. Um, and as I mentioned earlier, his lack of experience in the NFL may play a big role when it comes to his transition. So finally, Justin Fields is at 4. A lot of people have him at 2, but I have him at 4 just because, again, Ohio State products, we've seen how they've done. He's very athletic, though. Can't admit that. Another dual threat quarterback. He's very fast. He's very explosive, very elusive. And Fields high school coach, Matt Dickman, very interesting last name, but he said Fields ran a 4.3 laser, which I think it's false, but he's very fast, just in general. He's also a very talented passer. He's able to drop the ball into receivers' hands when he's going deep. That showed in the specifically in that Ohio State versus Clemson game in the playoffs. He was able to get that ball downfield and drop it perfectly in the hands. And he's also able to avoid sacks and make tight throws at weird angles. We've seen how good he can play. Again, the game against Clemson, a huge example, but we've also seen how bad he can play. The game against Northwestern is an example. And again, Ohio State possible product. Just have to bring that up. Let's just go through all Ohio State quarterbacks that have been drafted in the first 2 days or in the first 3 rounds. Dwayne Haskins and Art Schlichter are the 2 first-round quarterbacks out of OSU. Day 2
Not good.
picks: Terrell Pryor, Tom Tupa, Bobby Hoying, and Braxton Miller.
Now that's an interesting list because I think 3 of those ended up switching positions.
Yeah, Terrell Pryor he played
Yeah,
quarterback at the beginning of his career.
yeah.
Um,
I think
but
Miller wasn't he a second receiver too? I don't really know.
no, yeah, Braxton Miller transitioned to receiver.
Yeah, then I know Tom Tupa. I think he was randomly
And
like a punter or something.
I
I don't
oh
know.
yeah I get yeah. With Haskins signing in Pittsburgh, we may see Haskins get a new start, but arguably there has never been a successful quarterback out of Ohio State.
Yeah, I
So
mean that's not
I don't think Justin Fields is going to transition. And his one negative is his under pressure problems. He makes bad plays when he's under pressure. If he's forced into the pocket, um, he doesn't play that well. And sometimes he struggles to leave the pocket before it's too late as well. And that's something that can also be fixed, but something that if you can't fix it, if you're playing, like let's say you're playing a team like the Steelers from 2020, you're done. You're not
for
going to be
sure.
able to play. And finally, this one's going to be a shocking one to a lot of people, but I have Jamie Newman at 5th. It's tough to put him over Trask. It's tough to put him over Mac Jones, but he's very underrated to me. He fell down 2020 draft list. Like if we're talking, I believe only 3/4. He might if he stayed at where he was going into 2020, he may have been ranked 4th across quarterbacks, behind Lawrence, Fields, and Lance, more than likely.
Yeah.
Jamie Newman, again, very underrated to me. He fell down all the lists because he opted out of the 2020 season. And I believe the reason he opted out is because JT Daniels came into Georgia, even though JT Daniels didn't even start right away. But he opted out of the 2020 college season, and the fact that he didn't play in 2020 could affect his development drastically. Um, we also got to talk about Jamie Newman's physique. He's 6'4", 230 pounds. One of the most physically gifted quarterbacks in this class. He runs very well for his size, too. So, speaking of running, he more than likely runs about a 4.6, which is pretty good. He is very quick. He is a very quick runner, along with being a very tough runner. So that's a great combination to have at quarterback. He has a good passing game as well. He's able to hit receivers in stride very well, and he's also very, very, very accurate in the short and medium pass game. But there's a lot of fixable issues he has. When I say who do you think who specifically is a quarterback who locks in on one target? Who would you say?
Well, I know Mitch Trubisky did for a while there.
Yes,
The Allen
yes.
Robinson,
Did you see how bad he was when he locked in on one target?
not good.
That is something Jamie Newman did in college a lot with Wake Forest. He locked in on one target, which is proven to be unsuccessful in the NFL. He also struggles to process plays fast and make routes too late, and he falls apart under pressure. Again, all fixable issues, but just something that you're definitely going to want to improve on when it comes to the NFL. So, what do you think of these rankings?
So, I mean, I agree with your top two, right? Lawrence and Wilson, in my opinion, are the clear cut top two quarterbacks in this draft. After that, though, I mean, I think for the top, I think the next two, you could definitely debate that Fields is better than Lance. We haven't seen Lance too much. Of course, he played one season, 28 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Crazy, but I think even though Ohio State's had some bad luck with their quarterbacks, I'm still taking Fields over Lawrence with the overall abilities. Or not Fields over Lawrence, Fields over Lance. Uh,
Hmm.
Lance just didn't look good in that one game he played this season, and he basically took the rest of the season off. So
Well,
I th-
he didn't take the rest of the season off. The team didn't play. The team only played one
oh,
game all season.
oh, okay. Wasn't that just a showcase game or
It was
something?
yeah, it was a showcase. I think it was against North Arkansas or something like that, some other FCS school.
Yeah, okay. And then when it comes to Jamie Newman at five, I'll be honest, I don't really know much of anything about Jamie Newman. I think for my top five, I think I would probably put Mac Jones at number five. I know some people are going to disagree with that. Let's let's get the obvious out of the way. He had an incredible surrounding core at Alabama. He had the best offensive line, best receivers, best running back, and that's basically it's not going to translate to the NFL when you think about the talent that he's playing alongside. But if you can put him on a team like the Colts or the Saints, where he's walking into a situation where he's going to be not the starter immediately, but he has an incredible amount of talent around him. I think he could be a shadow of what he was in college, possibly like a Kirk Cousins level player with his ceiling. Whereas with the other prospects that I did include in the top five, I'm just not as sure about what they could become in the NFL.
Again, at ranking Mac Jones at 5 is kind of saying he's going to be like a career backup. So
Yeah.
that's a fair prediction. But I
Mhm.
personally think Jamie Newman to me has the higher ceiling than Mac Jones. So that's just my personal opinion. But is that all you have about my rankings?
Yeah, that's about it.
All right, so let's get on to the two questions that we got for our little Q&A today. Um, one of them's kind of, in my opinion, very obvious, but we're gonna get to the one where you can't talk about obvious. The question was, what are your thoughts on the Browns? Now, I'll start with that. I personally believe the Browns, um, since from the beginning of the season, I knew they had high potential, and they lived up to it. They were a pretty dang good team this year. Um, there's plenty of stuff that team can fix, but if they can keep going with Chubb and Hunt, and if they keep developing, that may become one of the best rushing duos in NFL history.
Yeah,
And it's like, and it's just shown that that is what kind of what made their success. Plus, you have Baker developing very well. He had a good season in 2020.
for
Um,
sure.
that defense is okay. It's got his good factors. You have Miles Garrett. You have Denzel Ward. You have a You have a decent secondary, a decent pass rush, and I don't even know how good the run defense is if I'm being honest with you. But it's a decent defense. So I think that team could definitely become something good soon. It's got a very high ceiling, but it can also definitely continue its same success it had last year and just constantly stay like at a 10-6, 11-5 level.
So yeah, when it comes to the Browns, I think they got to make if they want to make that next step to a Super Bowl contender. I think they got to start fixing that defense. It's a good defense. It has some pieces like Miles Garrett and Denzel Ward, as you said, but it's not going to be a defense that can win a Super Bowl unless their offense takes an absolutely enormous step to be like the best offense in the NFL. I think with their first few picks in the draft, they got to go defense, get some linebackers, help with the run defense, maybe a safety. Um, but yeah, when it comes to their offense, Baker Mayfield has progressed amazingly after that kind of sophomore slump he had. He had definitely had a bounce back year. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I mean, you said it. They're definitely easily the best running back core or running back duo in the NFL today. Could be one of the best in NFL history if they get the opportunity to play together for that long. I think Chubb is one of the best power inside rushers in the NFL. He can definitely take it outside too. But his receiving ability isn't that good, which is fine because you also have Kareem Hunt to help receiving. I
His receiving ability is pretty dang good. So
yeah, let's just say that. And then it's all gonna. I mean, we don't really know how it's gonna work out with Odell Beckham coming back. You could argue they got better as an offense when he got injured, but then again, he's also Odell Beckham Jr. He's a top receiver in the NFL. I think if they add that number one playmaker to their offense, it should theoretically get better. We'll see how that actually works out though, because it hasn't really worked with Odell so far in the offense.
yeah, I can get behind that. Now the second question to me was obvious, but I can understand why you argue against this. But the question was, who do you think is the better quarterback currently? Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady? Now I'm gonna go current. When I think of this question, I'm going currently and year and like the next year. So currently, it's obviously Rodgers. I mean, Rodgers is the MVP. Brady's just not in that conversation. Currently, it's Rodgers. If you're looking ahead in a year, I still think it's going to be Rodgers, and it's going to be a landslide soon because I have this is one of my bold predictions that I actually believe is going to happen. We all saw what happened with Breeze. As Breeze's career was coming near an end, he just he played like shit. Simply put. So if I believe Brady could possibly the same thing could happen to Brady, as in he's gonna have a slump, and if he might end his career because we didn't think Breeze was gonna retire. He still had a year in his contract. I'm pretty sure he still had a year left. But if Bree like we didn't expect some expected Breeze to retire, some expected him to stay, but overall people are gonna expect Brady to retire. So maybe that could be the same thing with him. So what are your opinions on that question?
Well, between Rodgers and Brady, it's definitely Rodgers right now. I think Tom Brady's definitely still a top 10, maybe top 5 quarterback in the NFL. But Aaron Rodgers is number one. He just played on another level this season. Tom Brady, I do think him and Arians are probably going to retire after next season. I mean, he's been great in the NFL even these past few seasons, but I do think that the Buccaneers are kind of in an all-out push right now, and the talent of their team is going to start declining in these next few seasons since they've been pushing so hard for the Super Bowl win these next 2 seasons. I think they Tom Brady can go out on top with Bruce Arians. They'll both retire after next season. Basically, my prediction for Tom Brady's
Yeah,
career.
that's understandable. You can argue that Brady will retire with a bad season, and you can argue that Brady will retire with a good season. Or
Yeah,
you can also argue that Brady's going to play until he's 50 years old or something.
which will
But
probably happen.
yeah, which will probably happen. But anyways, those are the two questions we got, and that's all we got for the podcast today. That was a very successful first episode, at least in my opinion. We had a bit of a digital issue, but we should be able to fix that. But that was the first episode of the CKTF podcast. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did enjoy, please show support. I'm hoping to continue this for long, and I hope to this will be successful as well. So hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you all in the next podcast. Peace out, guys.